Welcome back, y'all. I had a request on one of our videos to show how we do what I call a cowl cover or a duct cover. So we've got a package unit that we just swapped out here. This was a home warranty job. We're going into vinyl or wood. I got some exterior screws. You want to make sure whatever fastener you're using isn't going to rust. Got my marker, Malco sheet metal cutter. Don't know where my sheet metal hammer is, so this is what we got today. Drill, sheet metal screws, little zip screws to fasten the cover to the unit. A small brake, just using this level for a straight edge. And then of course we've got our sheet metal here. I don't remember what gauge this is, it really doesn't matter. Disclaimer, I am not a sheet metal mechanic or whatever you want to call it. Don't build ductwork out of metal. This is just how we build covers, and I'll show you a picture of the old unit right now. So we just build something to keep the water off the ductwork. We used to have a distributor that had a sheet metal shop in their warehouse, and we would go and use, but this is how we fabricate it on site. So I always start with the top section. So get the camera set up here. Oh yeah, need my tape measure. One more thing I use, tape measure. So the old cover was here. We're gonna try and match this up. And being I don't have a brake, normally you see sheet metal and it has like an X mark in it. That's to keep it from, you know, bowing and help the water run off and that sort of thing, and flexing in the wind. But we're gonna try and run it and cover this section too, or maybe go above it. But basically you want to measure, ideally you want the distance between the equipment and where you're going to fasten it to be the same on each end. So from where I'm planning on fastening it to the edge of the unit is like 33.5 inches, okay? And let's see if the other side matches that. I don't think it does, because we didn't modify the ductwork. One of these trunks, plenums, whatever you want to call it, is sticking out a little further than the other. So, but it's pretty close. And so we're going to do 33.5 inches. But, so we're going to build the top first, 33.5 inches deep. Measure the top of the unit. We got 49.5. Okay, so 33.5 by 49.5. Depending on what kind of brake you're using, you have to add, and how you're gonna, you know, build this, you need to add the measurements of your, you know, flanges, flaps, whatever you want to call them. So for this side, I'm gonna use this 1-inch side to build a flap, drill some holes in it. That's another set of tools I didn't have up here, was my drill bits. So I'll drill some holes in the flap so we can just pop the screws in to hold this end of the cover to this wall. Okay, so we're going to use that. I'm not going to put a flap over here, but we want a little bit of overlapping. I think, pretty sure that the unit is lower than where we're going to fasten it. It is. So the way I'm going to do this, backtrack. I gotta think about this for a second. We'll just go all out. So I'll put a flap on this side too, and we'll try to get it under this and use these screws to help screw it into this side. So we've got 33.5. We're gonna do 1 inch flap, flange, whatever on both sides. So that's 2 inches. We need to go to 35.5 by, measuring this way, 35 and a half, and then the length of this is 49 and a half. But I'm gonna put a flange on this end too, so we're gonna add 2 inches to that, because I'm gonna fold it over, pop screws in it, and then use that flap to screw into the side pieces. So we're gonna do 35 and a half by 49 and a half. Right? No, 51 and a half. Yeah. Actually, and as far as I know, sheet metal only comes in 48 inches wide. At least that's what we can buy here in South Alabama. So we're gonna have to cut our 35 and a half inch this direction. All right, so see this line here? It's 30, keep forgetting. It's 35 and a half inches this way, and it's 51 and a half that way, because our actual distance between the equipment and where we're gonna fasten it was 33 and a half inches. We added 2 inches for a flange on each side, and the width of the unit was 49 and a half. We added 2 inches for a flange on each side. So 35 and a half by 51 and a half. And then gonna use, all right, I went and grabbed a few more tools. Got these Malco sheet metal shears, pair of tongs is what I call them, and some right hand angle cutters. I'm sure people call it different things different places, but I usually use this contraption here and just go along. I think that's what I used in the video somebody asked me about, but yeah, just got to keep the angle right, cut the metal. It does put a little bit of a ripple where you cut it, but not so bad that you can't get the brake on it. But like I said, I am not a sheet metal guy. This is about as much sheet metal work as I do right here. All right, so see, you got one side with lettering on it. I just prefer to have the side without the lettering on it, facing where you can see it, so hide the lettering. But that means we need to fold our flanges on the long sides this way, 90 degrees up or out towards us on the top and bottom, the way it's oriented. And then we need to fold them down on the sides, so fold them in, or you know, whatever your verbiage you want to call it, depending on where you're from. I'm sure it's different. And then we'll have to snip the corners so that we can actually fold different directions. I think that's more what these shears are for, is cutting corners. this just kind of slides on there. You can take your tongs, flatten out these parts in between where you use the brake. Alright, so we're using these 1 5/8" exterior screws. That's just what I happened to pick up last time I bought some. You want to make sure that your drill bit isn't bigger than the head of the screw, because when you put it in, you don't want it to go through the sheet metal. The smaller the better. I mean, really, you could go with something a lot smaller and the screw will stretch it out, which is what I think we're going to do here. So, not sure which size this is. Looks like it's an 1/8 of an inch drill bit for a number 2 Phillips drive 1 5/8" exterior screw. You can use whatever you want. I just highly recommend that you don't use anything that's going to rust, because it's outside. So you don't, unless you just don't care what it looks like when you come back a few years later, I guess you can use rusty. So I'm gonna pop set this on here first. So it doesn't matter which end is in the back, because they're both identical ends, or supposed to be. I'll pop some holes in this. Again, you can measure it out if you want to. Okay. And you can tell this cover, now looking at it, is a little bit narrower than what was there. Ideally, the way to have done this to fill in that gap would have been to do the 51.5 here, and then the width of this on this end. Just trying to keep this as simple as possible and short. And then when you cut your sides, you would have this measurement at, you know, let's say it's 56 inches. So you would have this end being 56 inches and this end being 51.5 or whatever you're measuring, and you would just make a straight line from corner to corner. So this end's, you know, 4 inches wider than that end, so you get it cut the width you're making here. And I was doing this down there, let's say it's on the ground, and we're gonna go from right here to that corner. You just want to make a straight line from here to there. You cut it, you put your flange on it just like we did with this, and that's how you get your when you've got a different measurement at each end. Hope that made sense. All right, so we got that done. I did move this over where I can just build this side up, not have to put any blank off. We'll take a piece of metal. We'll get this off here. And we'll take a piece of metal and put in here and make up the gap that's not going to be covered, because this is siding under here anyway. All right, and then for sides, we want to measure the widest distance between the unit and the wall, because you know we got this, the siding starts right in here, so there, that's going to come up some, and then it's all the way up. So you got two distances, but we're going to measure the widest, which is going to be 35. And we're going to put a flange on this, just on this side, and just have it butt up to the wall on that side. So 35, we're going to make it 36, 36 wide, and then we'll bring it over here. I don't measure the height. I'll set it down, cut all my, you know, modifications in for the sides and the bottom, and then I get that set. And I'll come up and then mark where the top needs to be and take it and cut it. And I'll show you that. So we're gonna 36. So I marked where the wall or where the siding starts and then how deep it is. So we need to cut in and then cut up from here. So this piece is going to stick out further than this piece, or this part of the piece. All right, so this is all the way up against the siding and the wall. And now it's gonna work just fine back here, but we need to mark where the top of this top piece is. Okay. All right, so now this is where the unit starts. I made a mark at the bottom too. So I'm gonna pop a straight line between those, and then I'm gonna add an inch. So when I cut it, I'm gonna stay about an inch out from this side, so that gives me a flap up against the unit. All right, so we got this side somewhat done. I'm gonna put a bead of silicone in here just to seal that, and it's all the way up against there. And now, ideally, the way I would love to do this is if I had a Pittsburgh machine or access to a Pittsburgh machine. You would take and you'd put the Pittsburgh. Some people do it on the top piece, some people do it on the sides. I've seen it both ways. But you put a Pittsburgh in it, it makes like this tiny little Z-bend. The one we used to use took an inch out of, you know, your measurement. So you would always add an inch for the Pittsburgh. But it would make this Z-fold in the metal, and then you would take on the other piece that you're fastening to it and use this 1/4 inch break and put a 1/4 inch flap in it. So you'd have the Pittsburgh on the side here. This piece would have a Pittsburgh across the top. This would be a 1/4 inch flap instead of a 1 inch. And you would take your sheet metal hammer and you would tap that 1/4 inch flange down into the Pittsburgh, and then the Pittsburgh had another flap, tiny little flap on it that you would hammer down over that, and that makes this look a lot better. But this video isn't about you know, using a Pittsburgh. This is cutting a cowl cover out in the field with just some basic hand tools and making it, you know, better than the way you found it. So now we're gonna do the other side. It's pretty much, I mean, it's the same way. I did cut this piece of metal to stick in here, and once we get the piece in here that goes in here, that'll help push that up against the wall too. But just so you don't see the exposed siding back there, instead of cutting a piece on both sides to make up the gap that we left because I cut this piece too short, it's better to just push it to one side and cover this. So we get started on that now, and we're just gonna fast forward through this, but give you the process still. another thing, if you're out working by yourself, you can take and on your side pieces put this flange on the top and also have the flange, excuse me, put the flange on the top of the side piece and you still got the flange on the top piece, and then you drive your screws through the top. I like the look of putting the screws through the side, you know, then you don't have any water building up there. But if you're by yourself, you can't have somebody reach through like we did on the other side to do it. So this is probably going to be a lot easier. Just wanted to share that with you, and I'll put these screws in the top here just to show you what it looks like. All right, wrap this up. Still got to put silicone on some of the seams. We got to go and get some and come back because all I have is white, and I don't want to put white on here. But I have done cowls or covers that look better. I've also done some that look worse, you know. But the point of this video is to just show you how to do it out in the field, and you can do it as well or as poorly as you choose to. I did do some foam where I felt like some critters could get in. This is the ugly side. I had to make a patch up here because there was a big gap, but you got your foam down there. Biggest thing, you don't want to leave anywhere on this unit where water can pool, so it's going to come away from the house and then off to this side. There might be a few spots where there's, you know, a little puddle, but you don't want a huge pool of water pooling up. So always put them at a slant. You can do them, sometimes you can cut one side a little shorter than the other. You know, it makes the top look weird because it's slanted to one side, but you can have the water, you know, have the whole top slant one way so the water runs off in that direction. And that's it. Until next time, please hit the subscribe button. Help somebody out. Y'all have a good rest of your day or night.